Hey, this is Ben Solomon, and welcome to this episode of the Techno Leadership Show. In this episode, I want to share some thoughts around our personal brands and how we need to pay attention to our personal brands as tech professionals, as tech managers, and as executive leaders. There is a tendency for us as technology professionals to think, look, all of these branding, the perceptional things don't really matter. What I do or the results I accomplish is everything that matters. And to us, being result oriented, that is what matters. And to the organization, seeing the result being created matters from their bottom line perspective. But the perceptions around what that result does for the business and how you, as the person who either executed the project or managed the project or provided the strategy for the project, means a lot in terms of how you're perceived, how your expertise is perceived, how your value to the organization is perceived. And that is your personal brand. And yes, you can go down the path of, I'll just do my job, and that should speak for itself. In the real world, it doesn't always speak for itself, because it becomes whatever you create, whatever results you get, then becomes the expected norm. And unless you can show that yes, you are capable of creating those results, but these things and some things that you might have gone above and beyond to create, unless the people in charge and your colleagues understand that you have actually gone above and beyond to do that, they don't understand the context. There's no context to understand that you spent all weekend working on this problem and you hadn't, gone home maybe, for example, or you worked from home to do that. They don't understand that. There's been times when I've gone in Friday afternoon to a customer site. I've completely done a rebuild of their infrastructure. Smaller clients, yes, but a complete rebuild of the infrastructure to give it more resilience, give it better accessibility and high availability, and all of that in the whole weekend, which means Friday I start, doing certain things. Saturday I'm there rebuilding servers. Sunday I'm there putting all the old servers, virtual servers back in, and then testing everything. Sometimes I've been there till Sunday midnight, gone home, come back at 5 a.m. in the morning to make sure everything's working as it should, and then be there to provide support should something go wrong when everyone else comes in at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. If no one knew about it, they'd think nothing's happened, because the thing is, everything that we do in the back end to ensure that everything works well, no one sees, no one understands that it is all this effort that's gone into it that's created the outcomes. And why you had to rebuild the whole environment, all of that, they don't understand. So, which means you need to, use emails, chats that you have with executives in that organization to build their understanding of what you're doing, why you're doing it, how it will benefit the organization, how it will benefit the users, all of that as part of that, and which in effect plays a part in your personal brand as someone who is capable of doing this, who goes above and beyond to set aside a weekend and completely renovate a site, so to speak. And the thing that I personally missed in that period was I used to learn a lot from Microsoft MVPs and others who had blogs. So they had blogs on, let's say, System Center, some had blogs on group policy, some had blogs on Active Directory, and I learned a lot from them, and sometimes in comments shared stuff from my experience in my organizations that I worked for. But I never had my own blog that I utilized to share my thoughts share what I learned, share the experiences that I actually got from implementing things, from rebuilding, environments, like all the things that I learned and did, the risks that I might have taken, how I mitigated some of those risks, all of that I did not document. And I wish I had, because the thing is, now looking back almost 10 some or more years later, if I had posts and things like that on how I had done it, what I had done, and all of that, one, it would have been something that I can direct people to who come and ask me questions. How do you do X? I can say, hey, go to my post from 2010 when I did this whole project. Unfortunately, I don't have that, which is, neither here nor there at this point in time. But looking back, I'm thinking, if I had had that, people could see what I have achieved. And I could have used that as part of my application for jobs, saying, hey, these are all the projects that I have done. This is how I went about it. This is the result I got out of it. Would have been fantastic. Didn't do it. And even when I started as a technology manager, I thought I should document this because, I've moved from a tech professional to a tech manager. It's pretty much a career change, so to speak, for going from doing the technical work to going into management, even though I did have some technical responsibilities, management of people, resources, finance, I should have done. And look, in every organization that I've worked in, have documentation around how I've built the infrastructure, how I've modified things. Everything was well documented there. But what I didn't document was how I thought about it. How did I go about things? And similarly, when I went into the management role, I was thinking, hey, I should, share my thoughts, share what's working with my team and what's working with my executive management, and how all of that came about. But 2-hour commutes, 60+ hour work weeks, killed it. Didn't happen. I had at that stage when I started, I had 2 kids, and then by the time I finished there, I had 3 kids. And I play sport on the weekend. I've got other hobbies and everything else together. It never happened, unfortunately. And finally, it's only this year that I've gone in 2021. After all these things, look, I've got to just document my knowledge, things that I've gained, things, how I grew, and all that, so that people like yourself who are interested in becoming tech managers or even going into senior technology roles can learn from it. Or if you want to go into exec roles like CIO, director, whatever in the technology space, again, you can learn from this, put it into use, build your personal brand, build an understanding of yourself, the value that you bring, and all of that is the aim with which that I started this podcast and everything else. And obviously, I know that my best value creation is coaching people, like I've done with my teams, with colleagues, with friends in different careers even, to help them gain clarity and understand, and then facilitate, okay, so here's where you want to go, and this is what you need to do. And all of this, again, if I had documented what I had done for other people in the past, it would have been almost like a case study that I could have shared, which would have been part of a personal brand that I could have built. Unfortunately, I didn't do that, and I'm learning from my mistakes. And the reason I'm sharing this is, as difficult as it is, even if you don't want to put it out in the public space, it's not really that hard in today's day and age to pick up a phone, do a video in a private Facebook group that's just for you. You don't need to have anyone else, just you in that group. And you can record into there, and it's private from anybody else, unless you add someone into that group. And you can document your thoughts, document your day-to-day, what has happened and what you learned in the day from a certain negotiation that you had or certain talk you had with your team member, whatever it might be, you can share in there. So in the future, you can go back there and go, this is what I did in that situation. And even if you don't use it as, putting it out there for other people to learn and build your personal brand, at least you can go back to things that worked for you when you get into difficult situations in the future to see, hey, how did I tackle this 2 years ago? And that's something that you can do as a documentation for yourself on how you responded to a certain situation, how you went about certain things. And it also helps you eventually to see how much you've grown. Like, you might have struggled with leading people at a certain stage, and then you've learned all these things, and finally you've gone 2 years down the track, you've had like 10 or 15 courses that you've done, books that you've done, and you share all those things into this group that you have for yourself. And a couple of years down the track, you go, oh, I've become a really good leader. And you go back and see what's helped me. And then you can see the common themes there. And it's all part of who you are as a person, because it's become embedded in you. And then if someone asks you a question, hey, how did you go from here to here? You can say, hey, this is what I did. I've got it all documented for myself. I can share a couple of things with you if you'd like, and share a couple of videos if you want to. And that's the thing. Like, we learn from teaching others as well as learning from others. So it's a process of learning from others who've gone before us. And sometimes, and in my case, I enjoy doing this personally, but in most cases, like, you might work and read books in the area that you're in. In my case, I read broadly, so I bring in concepts and ideas from various different areas into my leadership, my way of going about managing projects, all of that, which has some aspects from your traditional project management and all that, but then you have other aspects that come from different areas and creates a whole different output, which is how innovation occurs. So, and all of that, when it's put out there, forms part of that personal brand. And that personal brand in today's day and age helps in when you're going for a job and you're applying for a job, your resume is there, everything's there, but when you say, hey, you can go to my blog or whatever and read what I've accomplished in the past, those who are really interested to see how you've gone about it, how you thought about certain things, would go and read, and that's the personal brand that they go, oh, this is the kind of person that we would like to have in our organization in this position. And it also is part of what you do when you're networking with people. How you deal with people, how you build relationships is part of that personal brand. How you contribute to them when they go, hey, I don't know about X. You go, oh, look, I've done a project in X. This is how I went about it. Again, that's part of the personal brand of them perceiving this guy or girl has an understanding of this area that I can go to as a subject matter expert. Even if you are not the best person in the world for it, you have tackled something and they feel easier to come and contact you because you're their peer to ask questions and learn more and grow there. So there's multiple benefits there to having a personal brand. And the thing is, even if you don't focus on it, your personal brand is being built. But when you consciously put your mind into the personal brand of how you appear to people, how you treat people, how you build relationships, how you do projects, how you market your team, your department, all of that as being value creators in the organization, all of that is forming a personal brand regardless of you consciously doing it or not. And in my personal opinion, I'd prefer to consciously shape that brand so that everyone, like my team, benefits from that brand that's created. And then the organization also understands the value that I personally bring and my team brings to the organization. And overall, it helps them understand what we are accomplishing and how we are enabling them to be able to accomplish overall results that they are seeking to achieve. That's all part of that thing. And I know it feels a bit vague and nebulous, but there's all these aspects that come in of how you go about things, how you maintain relationships, how you communicate value, all of that goes part of that personal brand, and that personal brand helps your standing in the organization with your higher ups, whether if you're already a C-level or director level person in the executive team, but working with the CEO or with the board, or if you're a tech manager who's working with the C-level executives and your team. Regardless, that personal brand affects how you're perceived, how the value that you create is perceived, and everything else that goes with it. So hopefully that helps you out. Hopefully you can have a different viewpoint on the personal brand and consciously direct what your personal brand should be like, so that you can show the value that you create and create the opportunities for yourself for the progressions in your career that you want to have. So I wish you all the best in your journey as a tech professional, manager, and leader. If you like this episode, please hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed yet, please hit the subscribe button so that you're notified of future episodes as they are released. I look forward to talking to you in a future episode. Take care.